Without. Wit, of course. Wit. That's so
Lord have
crazy.
mercy.
Folks, good morning to you. Glad that you are here with us, yet in the land of the living on this side. And this morning, powering you through the Power Hour. We're going to try to help you make it through this first hour of the new week and a new month. It's Women's History Month.
Yes, it
So we're going to
is.
talk a lot about that on this month and that and other things as well. And the we that we're talking about is we, of course. Sitting across from me is Bishop Dwayne David Royster.
And sitting across from me is the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler.
And so holding it all together, I kind of had to laugh. I mean, it wasn't really funny, but I thought about it. I said, I know why she's complaining, and the rest of us aren't. I saw her social media feed this weekend talking about the gas prices, and I thought
They are
about it. I
going
was
up,
like,
yes.
yeah, but we're like here in virtual studios. Somebody actually has to go in to like turn the lights on. We're gonna chip in. We're gonna send you a gas card. Kuwesa, what's up?
Koisa.
Good morning.
Koisa, how was your ride in today?
Not bad. It's raining. I didn't know it was supposed to rain today. I didn't check the weather, so I just came outside and I'm like, oh, there's water droplets on my face. Okay, great. So, yeah, but not too bad. Not too bad. Easy ride in. Just a couple spots had some water, so be careful for hydroplaning and things like that. But yeah, besides that, it was good.
But I
Wow.
appreciate that.
Yeah, well, like I said, I saw your feed and I just laughed. I said, man, that's messed up.
These gas
Poor
prices are
Kuwesa.
ridiculous. They're crazy. They're ridiculous. I'm not
Is
here
it
for
really
it.
that bad, Kuwesa?
It is though, because at the beginning of this year, I swear it was like 239, and now it's like 289. And I'm like, it's
Look,
been a 50 cent, increase. I'm like, yo, I gotta start
look,
saving my pennies here.
I was paying $1.95 in Maryland at one point
Just rubbing
Wow.
it in.
because they don't have all the taxes that they're on gas as they do up here, but it was much cheaper.
Well, I mean, I ride a motorcycle 90% of the time, and so I never really trip off the gas. I can't tell I mean, it's really,
Okay,
what's the difference
wait a minute,
between
wait a minute, wait a
12
minute, wait a minute.
or like
That's on your
$13?
bike. That's on your bike.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're never gonna pay that much for a tank full of gas on a motorcycle.
My bike can't pass a gas station. So,
You drive one of those. I got another friend who rides the same bike as yours, and he wants to do a cross country run. And I said, not unless you get another motorcycle. Kuwait said their bikes can only do like at 115 miles, they're out of gas.
yeah,
115, and that's it. And I'm like, bro,
yeah.
115, you got like a cruiser, man. That's not a cruiser. I got like sport bikes that can like double that. So if you can't get over 200 miles a gallon, we can't go. I'll meet you there.
Yeah, no, I got you. I got you.
So
It's
yeah, go ahead.
no good. It's all good.
No, man, I'm just looking. I'm just saying. So it's a lot to get to today. Shout out to Johnson and Johnson. I got a good friend who worked there for years on the legal side, and this is a big day for them as they now have the newest Moderna drug is out on the market, and it's the one shot only.
Hmm.
And for those who are like wondering, should I try to take it? Well, I mean, look, Fauci said that if given a choice, he would take this new one. He's already been fully vaccinated with, I think, Moderna. I'm kind of happy about that. That's what I've had. But Fauci is like, yeah, I would take the Johnson and Johnson if it were me.
Yeah.
And so 13,000 of those doses are coming to Philly this week. I see the Black doctors are back at Leacore Center. They have the emergency vaccination sites set up throughout the city. So again, I mean, I know folk are always a little hesitant when it comes to new medicines coming out, but look, folks, I mean, COVID is not finished, and this is not the time to let your guard down. This is the time to really pay attention and hunker down when you get toward the end of something. It's like, ever notice that most accidents in your cars happen when you're closest to home?
Absolutely.
There's a
Absolutely.
reason because you feel safe.
Yeah.
And so Will Mega's like, it's 70% reliable. Yeah, that's actually very high.
Well, it's actually a higher rate reliable for it's 70% reliable for mild to moderate symptoms. It's actually 80 plus higher for severe symptoms. And
Yeah.
actually, one of the things they've studied about this, it's a different deliverance method than the Moderna and the Pfizer. And over time, it actually improves. So it actually the efficacy
Yeah.
improves. It's early in the morning. The efficacy improves over time for the Johnson and Johnson drug. So, but I'm like, the basic thing, they were like, whatever shot you can get first, that's the shot you ought to take.
Yeah, it's like being on the gas on a out of gas, like on a turnpike. At that point, it's not like trying to be picky to get to your type of gas station.
Right.
If you see some gas, jump off and get it right then because you may not hit another exit in a long time. So listen, again, we're on Facebook Live. We are on YouTube Live. We're on the radio, 900 AM Philadelphia, 96.1 FM Philadelphia. Download the app and carry it with you. Oh, an Emmanuel Bussy sighting. My main man. What's up, Bussy? He's a different kind of Democrat.
Yes, I do.
Yep, he is. Different kind of Democrat. That's their brand. Glad to see Manuel. Glad to see Bernita and Gary and others. Calithia, glad to see you. Rob, what's up? Mabel, Connie, Kathleen, Ed, Ethlyn, Lynn Baylor. Sheriff of Nottingham is in the house. Of course, Kanisha, Franny, and others as well. Come on in, hit the share button, send this out with your friends and your families. Hey, did you hear about this guy? It's Monday, so, got to kind of shake the dust off here.
Mm-hmm.
Went into Victoria's Secret over the weekend.
You went to Victoria's Secret over the weekend?
I said, did you hear about the guy?
Oh, the guy that went to Victoria's Secret I thought this was a story. I'm like, can we talk about this on the air? But I'm like, okay, no. I did not hear about the guy going to Victoria's Secret. I'm sure there are plenty of guys that went to Victoria's Secret.
But I don't think there are a lot of the guys who went to Victoria's Secret and had the handgun in their pocket go off.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
This wasn't the cop that went in there that there's a situation where a cop's gun went off accidentally someplace. And but I guess this is not that same one. Okay.
No, this is not that one. I mean, you kind of think about, one of my one of the comedians I used to listen to all the time on Tom Joyner was J. Anthony Brown.
Yeah.
And J. Anthony Brown used to always say, sometimes the jokes write themselves. He said, my man said the gun, while he's shopping in Victoria's Secret, accidentally went off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And what did he shoot?
Thank God he didn't shoot anybody.
Okay, just accidentally.
Shot himself, I think.
Oh, wow. Shot himself in Victoria's Secret. That's not good.
We'll leave that right there and just walk on. That's just like crazy.
I was getting ready to say something, but I'm like, wait, I was getting ready to say something, but I'm like,
Yeah, that's what I said. I mean, there are plenty of things that you could say, and that's why I said I'm just going to leave it right there and walk away.
They're going to be like, that wasn't holy preacher.
Let you just fill that in yourselves. What's up, D? Dre Terry, listening on YouTube. He said it was an accident.
He said it was an accident, right?
Yes, Lord.
I'm sure there are all
yes.
kinds of accidents that happen in Victoria's Secret.
Oh, my God. He said he didn't mean to do that. Greg Brinkley, Diane, glad to see you all as well. On a more serious note, so listen, on this Women's History Month, I want to start off by talking about something that is close and personal, and yet also a very general kind of thing as well. It's not just something that happened to our family, but happened to a lot of families. So on last week, we had, I think maybe after the show Friday, we went down to D.C. to pick up a very rare print about the Richard Allen bust and monument that was on display at Fairmount Park in 1876 during the Centennial, American Centennial celebration, the first American World's Fair. So while we're there, the woman who found it, tremendous woman, Marion Burnett, Marion Bennett, who just did she found this in a relative's home. Her grandfather had been an AME pastor in the early 1900s, found this incredible rare thing. Nobody had ever seen this. We've been looking for this for years, by the way. I've personally been looking for it for 13 years. So she turned it over to the church. So it's great. Went to pick it up. Leslie and I going to have it conserved and then scanned and all that good stuff. So while we're there, she says, "Oh, Rev, you got to meet my neighbor." She said she said he's been wanting to meet you. He's 95 years old. He's a World War II veteran, and he fought in the Battle of Okinawa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this guy is like full of life, man. Just like a wonderful old guy, right? And so we're talking, great conversation. But as I woke up this morning thinking about World War II in particular, and Women's History Month, really could call it Black Women's History Month as well. But so my grandmother, my late grandmother, who was half of the family that got us to California through the Great Migration, left Arkansas in the 1940s, left her children, my mom, my aunt, my uncle, with family, so that she could go to California, to Oakland, to work in the war effort. And so she was a part of that Great Migration because people told her that you can go to California, they're hiring Black women to work in the war effort. They've got plenty of jobs, a ton of money, and you'll be able to send for your children later. And sure enough, that's what she did, along with, like thousands and thousands of other Black women who left the South during that period of time and went west and who went north. So she worked in a place called Moore's Dry Dock. Moore's Dry Dock. Ironically, my father's father worked in the same dry dock. He had moved there from Oklahoma, and they knew each other. And then like 20 years later, their kids meet randomly and poof, voila. But for my grandmother, it was a different experience. Now, for my grandfather, he certainly experienced racism because there were also a lot of white men there from the same places, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, who didn't think Black folks should have these jobs, and gave Black men hell. But where white men and Black men often came together in solidarity was none of them, for the most part, thought women should be there, especially Black women. And so she was a part of that group that worked there in the Moore's Dry Dock. And let me just tell you, so I'm trying to tie this back into the guy that I met, the World War II veteran, right? So at Moore's Dry Dock, the kind of boats that they worked on, they were retrofitting ships and building ships for the war effort in the Pacific. Okinawa happened in the Pacific. So they helped build troop carriers that would, withstand hits from Japanese torpedoes. They also built amphibious landing boats.
Wow.
So so this guy that I met, it is conceivable in some realm of possibilities that he was on a troop carrier or one of those amphibious boats that my grandmother worked on. And while we celebrate and we recognize, largely these white men like the guy I met who, were out there fighting on the front line because Black men largely were not allowed to, and definitely not Black women, we celebrate them as heroes in the greatest generation while we overlook the obvious. That you couldn't get to Okinawa to fight if it were not for troop transports that were built by people who left places like Arkansas and then had to suffer the indignity of being called a Black you-know-what every day you show up to work to help save the world.
Wow. Yeah, that's not a part of the stories that we tell, and those are stories that have to be told. And she might want to come on the show and talk about that one morning.
She passed.
Oh, wow.
She actually passed my sophomore year of college.
Oh, okay. This is a long time ago.
But you know what? And it's all right. I'm kind of glad you mentioned this because a real horrible byproduct of that work environment is that she had a tremendous exposure to asbestos.
Yeah.
Died of lung cancer, way too young. And I can't tell you how many people who worked in that same dry dock died of lung cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just jacked them all up, and they didn't know. I mean, the workers didn't. I'm sure that there was somebody up top that did, but she didn't. And the strange part is, she didn't talk about her life in that way, and that a lot of these women did not understand or view that, or maybe they did, but they just didn't talk about it, that what they did was every bit as heroic as all of the men who ran and enlisted immediately after Pearl Harbor, and felt like I've got to do everything I can to fight and to stop, the Axis powers from dominating the world. I mean, I don't care what people say. That was not your usual kind of war.
Right.
If that war had gone another way, that was not okay, we won, you lost, now we all go back to business as normal and we take the spoils. That was, we're about to impose Nazi rule on the rest of the world. Right. And for black folk, that would have been horrific. So, yeah, she was down with all that.
Wow. Amazing, man. Amazing. It's we talk about black history, talk about women's history, and there's so much within our families that sometimes in our families we don't really recognize the deep historic value that our ancestors have because they were our ancestors, right? We don't talk about their stories very frequently in the ways that they were out, in many ways, your grandmother out changing the world and supporting, the future for her grandson to be able to do some of the things that he's been able to do and have some level of freedom, right? We have to continue that march that they passed on to us, that baton that they passed on to us towards full liberation and freedom in this country. So definitely and deeply appreciating your grandmom today and all the work that she put in. And, we have to find a way. I mean, white women got Rosie the Riveter. What did black women get? To tell the story, the legacy of their work. We need to really take a look at that.
Yeah, there's an incredible museum to their honor. Oh my God, man, let me tell you, I'm so happy I had a chance to see it on one of my last trips to California. It's it's inside of Richmond, California. So Richmond and Oakland were the two big places where the docks were. Richmond was just as active as Oakland. And so I've got relatives who are in Richmond as well, same migration pattern. And but this, I mean, when you go in there, and it really does a great job at talking about the role that black women in particular played. It honors them. And this is a national parks museum. So this is a federal museum.
Right.
And it sits on the water where one of the old dry docks used to be. So as you're there, you kind of really get the feeling like, man, it's a great tribute. So if you get to California after COVID, or if you're out there now, you listen to the program, definitely get out there. Her name was Iowa Milan. Well, Milan that was her married name when she got to California. But Iowa was her first name, like the state Iowa.
Yeah.
Please don't ask me why. That's a whole nother thing, like black names from Arkansas. That we can do a whole story on that. Like, okay, we're going to name a state, Iowa. Okay, but anyway, but we loved Iowa, and she was a wonderful person. We're up on the break. It's 6:21 in the morning, and when we come back, continue this conversation. And I posted a little something in the Facebook Live. I'll put it on YouTube as well. It's called Invisible Warriors. Greg Cook, local guy here in Philly, has been working for years on doing a documentary about these black Rosies. And one of the people he interviewed was the former mayor of Camden, Gwen Faison, who also was one.
Oh, really?
Gwen Faison, she was the mayor of Camden when I was the pastor in Macedonia like 13 years ago. And I mean, I think she was like maybe in her mid-80s at that time and totally full of life, like, y'all better elect me again. But now I see why. All right, we'll be right back on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere. It's the Power Hour. Hit the share button. Bring your friends and your family in. We'll be right back.
I went to check on Pop today. We put our hands up to the glass as if we were touching. But really, the only touching part was that we both tried to smile.
That's no way to say hello or goodbye. COVID-19 vaccines are here, but until enough of us are vaccinated, we'll all still need to help slow the spread. Keep a 6-foot distance, wear a mask, and avoid indoor social gatherings. Learn more about vaccines and slowing the spread at cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Clark Roofing Company has over 30 years of quality roofing experience, providing exceptional customer service, honesty, and professionalism. Clark Roofing is a second-generation master roofer, installing top-quality roofing systems for commercial and residential properties across the tri-state area. For fast, dependable service, call 215-365-ROOF. That's 215-365-7663.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM. and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. We're here Monday through Fridays from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. to bring you the latest in news, happenings around Philadelphia, and, of course, our opinions. And we have plenty of them. Actually, as you were thinking, I just saw Deacon Malika Walls online, who's chair of the deacon of our congregation. As you were talking there, there's a woman in our congregation who was a World War II WAC, African-American officer. And that's the Women's Army Corps, for those that don't know what a WAC is. And I really want to try to see if we can get her on to talk about her story and experience, because there were not many black WACs, and there were less black WAC officers. And I've had some conversation with her about that, and just really, want to share that. I also, Deacon Walls' mother, as I've talked about her mom on the show before too, is one of those folks. She was actually at the founding convention at SNCC, and was active in SNCC. And so I really want to see if we can get her on. Her mother is actually an appointee to the Department of Education by President Clinton. So want to try to get her on. I mean, we have this living history that's around us, and it's like, how do we access that and tell the stories of how, women were and absolutely vital to our community, vital to our history, and yet so often get overlooked in the grand scheme of things. And so we want to make sure we continue to lift them up and lift their stories up. I mean, we talk about the Tuskegee Airmen. Can we talk about the black WACs that were out there?
Right. And so, yeah, I mean, a lot of these stories, like you said, they're right there before us. And unfortunately, we've been conditioned to downplay what we do. And I mean, my God, like, black folk, and then black women in particular, that somehow it's like, I was just doing what I was doing. It was just, I was just going to work. No, it's like, are you kidding me? Like, somebody had to actually make bullets. Someone had to make, bombs. Someone had to build airplanes. Somebody had to build ships. And when you are in war, there are no insignificant parts, So it's not like somehow, I built a gun, but you didn't need any kind of ammunition for it, right? It's like every single piece is critical and important. And again, as I continue to say, World War II was a war like none other that the world faced. And if you could imagine a person like Hitler winning that war,
right?
I mean, that would have just, it's just, have you ever did you ever binge watch The Man in the High Castle on Amazon?
I used to watch The Man in the High Castle, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's, what's so frightening about it is it's like, dude, it could have gone any other way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It could have absolutely gone the other way. And then the United States, I mean, their whole dystopian view was that the U.S. was split between Germany and Japan.
Right.
But really, Germany was still trying to dominate Japan, right? The whole white supremacy thing continued to manifest itself.
Yeah, neither side was like great, right? I mean, it's like to be like, oppressed by either side was not really optimal. And so, thank you to all of those heroes and heroines, named and unnamed, who made all of that happen. There is another person I want to just kind of mention briefly, and she's another Philly first, came out of Mother Bethel, but by way of Cape May, New Jersey. This is another woman that inspires me out of our history. Mm-hmm. The Reverend Gerina Lee.
Yeah, I knew you were going to bring her up.
Yeah, man.
When you started, I thought that's who you were going to talk about. So
the AME Church has posthumously given her ordination as the Reverend. Mm-hmm. But in her day, she was a licensed preacher. And here in Philadelphia, so she is, I think, as far as we know, the first woman licensed to preach in the United States. Not just the first black woman, the first woman. And there were, to be sure, other women who were preaching, though not recognized largely by men. They were just doing what they were called to do. But Gerina Lee actually had a license. She, her actions persuaded Richard Allen to change his own mind, who was against it. But there was a male preacher preaching at Mother Bethel one day. Alan was sitting in the pulpit in the pews, and the guy in preaching terms, Royster, he started flunking.
Mm-hmm.
He flunked.
Yeah.
And so he just kind of got there and got lost. He just sat there and the whole, it's nothing worse than being in the congregation and the preacher loses, their place, and everybody's that awkward silence.
Yep.
You start hearing some "Help him, Lord." Help him, Lord. It's all right now. Take your time. And so while that was happening, Gerina Lee, in all seriousness, this is the 18, I believe it's 1820s, because Allen died in 1831. She just stood up, man, by the Spirit and started preaching.
Wow.
From you, sat down, and she said she just knew Richard Allen was going to kick her out of the church.
Wow. He
stood up and he said, "You know what?" He said, "This woman came to me. We all know Reverend Lee's widow." And he said, because her husband had been a preacher, said, "She came to me years ago, said she was called to preach. I told her, nah, we ain't having it. But after the day, I don't know who can say no." She was one of the most traveled preachers in her era. I don't know a man in the AME church who traveled as much as she did in her lifetime. She had a child who Richard Allen's widow would look after while she was gone. She walked on a couple of different journeys up to Canada from Philly. Walked and hitched rides, however she could get there, to Canada. From Canada, she went west through Canada to Detroit.
Oh, wow.
From Detroit down into Ohio and back a couple of times.
Wow.
Bruh.
That's a circuit, bro. That's a circuit right there.
A circuit and a half. So Gerina Lee, shout out to Gerina Lee. And this is what I wanted to say about her. This is really why I brought her up. Hopefully that there is some aspiring scholar who's listening this morning, or somebody that knows one, since we have so many elitists who listen to our program. Sorry. So
I'm sorry I brought that word up. Lord have mercy.
It wasn't you. It was somebody else who brought it up. So since we're an elite company, maybe one of you have a friend or someone who writes, but I continue to say that, and her story, first of all, she left a autobiography, which is remarkable. It is a 100-page work that you can find for free. If I find the link, I'll post it in the chat. But Gerina Lee left her story, and she battled depression. She didn't know she called it like demons, and the devil tried to make me kill myself and all these things. But we know that today is, really kind of like mental health challenges. Right. But she battled through all of that and still, persevered. But when I was watching Skip Gates's The Black Church documentary, there were multiple moments where I was really just upset about the choices that he used as far as the academics or the clergy to speak about a particular part of the church. But in some of these cases, the person who has written the book on a person has not been Black.
Right.
And nobody's written Gerina Lee's story yet. They've done articles and things like that. But I keep saying, Black women, some white women scholars going to go out there and write the book. And if she does a great job, wonderful. But just get ready. Every time we talk about Black women preaching in history, you're going to see her up on the screen and say to yourselves, why didn't I write that book?
Yep.
I'm saying right now that Mother Bethel Church, because she came out of our church, I will say this without even talking to the board yet. Y'all, I know some of our members are listening, that we will put some money behind a researcher who wants to take the time to research and write, a Black woman researcher who wants to take the time and write on the story and the life of Gerina Lee. It is that important. I will find the money for that.
You could probably get somebody to do a PhD dissertation on her.
Well, somebody, a postdoctoral is what I'm thinking. Somebody who just finished their dissertation, looking for the next thing. You don't really know, but you could take a year or two to write this story. If there's somebody out there, tell them to come and holler at me at the church.
That's a serious offer right there.
Because I will say this, and knowing the part of the problem why a lot of Black folk don't write on Black subjects, number one, is because white schools will say, oh, there's not enough there, and they kind of knock it down, but they dissuade you, but then will encourage their own colleagues to do it. But number two, there often isn't funding for you to take off to actually do this kind of writing.
Right.
And I'm saying we will put some money on the table and find some people to match it. I guarantee that.
That's awesome. Folk need to take advantage of that. If I was a woman, I'd take advantage of that. I keep wanting to do my PhD in history anyway, so I would have done that. I would have easily done that. Way to go. That's a great offer out there. You heard it first here on Black Radio, on WURD Radio, y'all. It's out there. Black scholars, and I know there's some black scholars that are listening to us right now that should be seriously thinking about this.
I'm looking. I'm kind of go through the Facebook chat to see who's put names out there. But listen, really, somebody needs to take advantage of it. And as I thought about it, I was like, well, you know what? It's not just simply saying somebody should, but what are we going to do to support the person?
That's right. That's right.
And I mean, so to find some money that's out there where, somebody can take off. They don't have to worry about paying their bills for a year or two, and they can write a quality work and come back with something that is a real contribution to academia, to our understanding, and to, to further this information and knowledge is, I tell you what, absolutely incredible. Now, here's a real problem, though. Can you imagine what she had to face walking from here to Canada and then to Detroit?
Yeah. I can't even imagine making that journey in the 1800s as a man, let alone a woman, trying to do that solo. That was, the Lord was on her side.
Yeah, I know that's right. I wonder if she was like Harriet Tubman. I wonder if she carried a piece.
I hear you.
She didn't say that inside her autobiography. Preachers don't like talking about that, but I wonder if she was packing.
Might have been. But, I mean, yeah, that's an amazing journey. Even, I can't imagine sleeping in, there's places you can't stay. There is no green book at this moment. There is nothing there to, this is the place you can stay, whatever. I'm sure sometimes she was sleeping in the woods. To have that level of calling on your life and to be that deeply committed to the call that you will risk any and all to be able to step out and do that ministry. And then to go into Canada, I'm sure she was up there trying to find the black folk that escaped from slavery to be able to proclaim a word to them. We often don't talk about our siblings that are in Canada, right? And we know some of them are our siblings. They were our ancestors. They came from our ancestors that were on slave plantations that went on to freedom, that were up in Canada as well. They too are a part of our legacy, our story. And for her to go up there to preach, to proclaim a message, and then come back down to the United States, I don't even know why she would want to come back down to the United States after she was up in Canada.
Her son was there.
But then to do this journey twice, right? That's even more complicated. I mean, I think about the fact that you and I talked about doing this road trip, going, the bikes, and I was like, yeah, we should go camping. And you were like, nah, we good.
Right.
You're like, I need a hotel. I need a room for the night. And I was like, oh, we get some tents, we throw them on the back. We'll be good on the bikes. We could do what we have to do. And you were sort of like, no, you wanted to have a hotel. I think, but can you imagine, what that felt like for her? And, not having a hotel to go to, not having a place to sure she could get food every day, not always sure she could have the freshest water to be able to drink, but feeling compelled and called by God to do what she did, despite the fact that people would reject her because of who she was.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I mean, you think about just how dangerous the world has always been for women in the world. I mean, even today, man, we're still in that same place where the world is completely dangerous and you have to still watch your back. There was such a horrible story last week. I didn't even want to talk about it, but I think it's important as we think about this moment to at least lift it up. Certainly praying for the woman who went to Macy's, she and her husband, 55 years old, last week in Philadelphia, the downtown Macy's, right across from City Hall. And again, she's with her husband. There are people in the store shopping.
Yeah.
She goes into the restroom, and a person, they have caught someone who is the accused assailant. So I won't necessarily talk about him by name because he's accused until he goes through the courts. But we certainly hope that whoever did this faces the consequences of their actions. But a young man hides in the stall before anyone comes in the bathroom, is in there hiding. And this woman comes in, sits down, locks her stall, and he jumps over, and in 10 minutes raped her in Macy's during the middle of the day, ran out, and unbeknownst to anybody in the entire store, this is happening. I mean, first of all, it ought to send, like, it should make all of us shudder, regardless of whoever you are. Certainly for women, it's going to hit them in a different way than it hits us. But we all also have, women that we love and that we care about, and to think that this could have happened to anybody in our circle, right? I mean, what else could you do, right? You're there with your wife. She goes in the bathroom. Unless you go in there with her, right? I mean, is that the kind of world that we have to have now, where it's like literally you got to carry a gun into the bathroom because people do these kind of random acts of violence? And it just, I don't know, man, just dispels all these, like, all of these myths about rape that, that we're so easy to write off. Oh, what were you wearing? The whole quote unquote too ugly to rape, the too old to rape, all of this stuff. This guy didn't care who came in that stall.
That's right.
It literally didn't matter as long as it was a woman. He was there. He didn't care about any of that. And that's unfortunate that that's where some people actually live. And so I think we just need to really we should have somebody from WURD on here at some point this week, Women Against Rape in the city of Philadelphia. They do an incredible job in moments like this. But Janice Armstrong, our good friend and sister, has written her opinion piece on that today. I noticed that in the Inquirer, where she talks about when it's not even safe to go to the bathroom anymore. I mean, as men, we laugh about, when women have to go to the bathroom together, and it's like, it's like, oh, God, I can't go to the bathroom by yourself. But now it's kind of like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you can.
Yeah. It's really raw. It's hard. That's raw.
What kind of world, man?
And this happened in the morning. It wasn't like in the night or, right before closing. This happened broad daylight.
Right.
It's really sad.
Yeah, in Philadelphia, in Macy's, and in 10 minutes. She went in at 11:30. He was gone at 11:40. Whew, man, on that, man, we got to take a quick break. I'm sorry for folk who out there who I know this has you triggered this morning. Probably should have started with a kind of a warning. I apologize for that. And because, again, if you've gone through something like that, your life is never, ever, ever the same. And so to think for something like that, especially hitting you at that age where, oh, man. Anyway, we got to take a quick break, and we come back. We'll continue this conversation. This is the Power Hour. Hit the share button, bring others in. We'll be right back.
COVID-19 has highlighted the need for digital equity and internet adoption programs. Comcast's Internet Essentials program is designed to connect families to low-cost, high-speed internet and laptops so students can be ready for anything. Since 2011, Comcast has connected 4 million students from low-income families to the internet through its Internet Essentials program. Learn more about how Internet Essentials is connecting students.
Okay, Her's new fire potato chips and cheese curls, they are spicy. Whew, they're hottest snacks yet, hold on. Whew. But it's not just heat. There's some nice sweet and savory stuff going on too. Ooh, there's that heat again. It burns, but it burns so tasty. Ooh, that's hot. Find Her's Fire Snacks at your store today. Whew. Taste the flavor, feel the heat, break out the Her's.
Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
Good morning. A bit of volume building here in Philadelphia. This report sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance, where you only pay for what you need. Southbound 95, coming down the bridge. A little slow through that construction. Again, Betsy Ross through Girard Building. Northbound side, no major problems there. Vine Expressway looks good through Center City. Schuylkill Expressway, east and westbound, not too bad there as of yet. Same thing on the PA Turnpike and the Blue Route 476. Southbound Boulevard, Route 1, some volume there. Broad down the Fox, again through construction. 55 northbound delays from Deptford into 42 picking up. Nobody should have to pay for one-size-fits-all insurance. Liberty Mutual customizes your insurance, so you only pay for what you need. Customize and save with Liberty Mutual Insurance. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Now, a WURD weather update. Here's NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
Thick fog and rain this morning, gusty winds and drying this afternoon. High temperature of 50 degrees today. Those winds bringing in much colder air for tomorrow. A low of 24 degrees Tuesday morning. Will feel like it's down to 12 with the wind. Just 38 the high with lots of sunshine. The winds tapering off later on Tuesday. A cold night Tuesday, down to 30 Wednesday morning, but a nice rebound Wednesday afternoon with sunshine, a high of 55 degrees. I'm NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley with your most accurate forecast. Count on it.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. We have had a strong start today to our conversation in Women's History Month about the power of black women in our history and in our communities. I just want to switch gears here for a minute just to go to some national politics. I think we need to talk about this. So some people might be aware the House of Representatives passed a $1.9 trillion pandemic bill. The end of last week, Friday, Saturday, they passed this bill. The 27th is when they passed it, directly along party line vote. So, of course, there were two Democratic defectors that did not vote for the bill. And the interesting thing about this bill is that for some folk it will be another $1,400 in a check from the federal government. It's putting a lot of money into education, into states and cities and municipal governments across the country. It will continue to allow the country to begin the process of recovery. One of the pieces that's interesting in it is that it has a piece of legislation in it that will allow the minimum wage to be raised to $15 an hour over the next few years, culminating in $15 an hour by the year 2025. The interesting thing is that the parliamentarian, who is an independent person that is set aside to help with procedural issues in the Senate and in the House, said that that particular piece was not constitutional, that they could not do it by virtue of the rules. Well, not necessarily constitution. They couldn't do it by their rules. Because the way that the bill will be passed will primarily be along party lines, and the issue is going to be in the Senate, where policies like the $15 hour minimum wage has to be passed by 60 votes of the Senate. So the House decided to go ahead and pass it the way that it is. It is being sent over to the Senate. Senator Joe Manchin, who is a Republican, he is actually a Republican. He's a Democrat, though, from West Virginia, has vowed to veto the bill. Part of the reason I'm bringing this up is that I'm sure people have heard about this in the news, but it has not passed the Senate yet, right? So just because it has passed the House does not mean it's going to get through the Senate. And even when it gets to the Senate, they will have to go through a reconciliation process between the language in the House bill and the language in the Senate bill. Although the president would love to see this happen by the end of this month so they can start rolling checks out by at least April, and also extend the unemployment benefits for those that are on unemployment. It would actually give you an additional $400 a week. Originally it was $600, then it got dropped down to $300 in some states. This would push it back up to $400, and that would stay in place until August 29th of this year. And there's actually another bill that's even being talked about past this bill at this moment to continue to help stimulate the economy. We do not know at this moment what this form, how this is going to get shaped once it gets into the Senate. There are a lot of Republican leaders that are very upset about this bill because it's too expensive, and they don't want to do that. Of course, they didn't have a problem cutting taxes and then creating a huge deficit, but they're now having a problem with this because it actually puts a lot of money into the hands of people directly impacted, which is where it's actually going to do the most good.
Yeah, well, all eyes are on the Senate this week, and like you said, again, with these razor thin margins,
Yeah.
it's only so much that a Biden presidency can do, especially when you have a Joe Manchin who's going to continually be the wild card. So, I just simply say, pay attention to what's going to happen in 2022 with these races that are up in the air, and hopefully you get more of a cushion where Joe Manchin doesn't continue to play such an outsized role. The bigger threat, though, is I think in the House, and whether or not the House stays in control of the Democrats, I'm not sure. And maybe we could talk tomorrow a little bit about CPAC and what happened there yesterday, because again, that's that all plays into this. But there's another national news story since you went national that I want to talk about that's kind of relates to what we were talking about earlier, and that's so I did say last year, for the record, when everybody was on the Cuomo should run for president bandwagon.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I swear to you, I am not a revisionist historian going back and saying, "Oh no, you were like everybody else." I never said it. First of all, we were far too long along in the primaries, and at that point, Biden had wrapped it up. Bernie had just not yet had come out of the race, and then even after that, oh my God. The way people were fawning over Cuomo's COVID press conferences. Go back and look in your timeline. Go back. Some of you who listening right now, you were posting stuff. Got to get my tea and sit down and wait for Cuomo's press conference. So his COVID press conferences had women all around the country just going crazy. Am I kidding?
Nope.
Am I kidding?
Nope.
All right, I'm not making this up.
No, sir.
Everybody was going crazy about Cuomo. And he should all of a sudden, given his age and length of time in politics, that means he's got a long resume. And that nobody in the party was calling for Cuomo to run for president, like ever, right? And in fact, our friends, mutual friends of ours from New York who were more progressive, were saying, "Are y'all crazy? Never Cuomo."
Absolutely.
Now they didn't go into any of this kind of stuff about why not, but they were like, "No, you don't want Andrew Cuomo as the president." And so now, my man has been hit not by one, but two sexual harassment suits.
Yep. Two.
And he's writing it off as, yeah, I said some stuff, but it was just kind of like, they were like ill-timed, not well-articulated jokes. Come on, ladies, I didn't mean it. Now, so you're talking about like, the culture. So I was having this conversation with my two youngest daughters about what happened in Macy's over the weekend. And, we're just talking honestly about just, and I'm trying to help them understand the minds of men, which sometimes is a very dark and ugly place. Not all brothers, but there are some who, like that guy, whoever attacked this woman, it's just a sickness that it's like, yo, I wish I could like help you understand that it's just some people out there that you want to stay clear from. And so one of them asked me, what can we do? We need more education. I don't know exactly. None of us have all the answers, but one for sure is that we can say that we can believe women, and that we can say to folk like a Cuomo, somebody should have pulled his coattails years ago. If two women had come out publicly against a sitting governor, as powerful as he is, there got to be more.
Not only that, he's about to get jacked up because they've actually, not only Schumer and Gillibrand, who are the two senators, have called for independent investigation by the Department of Justice and Attorney General Letitia James, and they want him to stay out of the investigation. He has now said that he's willing to submit to that process, and Letitia James is no joke. So, I don't know. I'm trying to remember. We actually talked about this on the show here last week. But Letitia James, in the Daniel Prude, she was the Attorney General. They couldn't. The grand jury would not press charges against the judge, against the officers. Letitia James went to a judge in Monroe County and said, "I want the grand jury testimony and reports released." I want the comments of the grand jury released on this particular. Letitia James is no joke. It's a sister
Right.
who is determined that the justice system is going to work. So they basically Letitia James needs to have complete autonomy to do this investigation in the state of New York on Cuomo. And I've heard people refer to Cuomo as the Democratic Trump. So just so you know, I mean, the narcissism is real.
Well, right. And so, I mean, listen, now, we don't know if he's guilty or not. That's what the investigation is for. But we do know that there are two people who have brought suits. And we can assume that there are probably more who would like to bring suits who would also say it happened to them. Now, whether or not what happened to them, crossed the line legally or not is up for that's the legal process. What we can't talk about here is what do you do about it. So this is what I'm saying. So check this, man. I mean, this is what I mean. So Raphael, you said this, and I want to just simply say, I'm not trying to knock you. I'm just want to just point out the way in which we talk about this. So Raphael says on Facebook, I always knew that Governor Cuomo of New York was a big flirt. That is how some of the Italian men are in power, who are in power. They think they're studs. All right, the whole you're just a flirt. There is such a thing as flirting, right? That may be annoying, but it's harmless. It's flirting, right? And people tell you stop it, knock it off, and you knock it off. But when you are a person in power, there's a different dynamic with people who work for you, and there is a difference when you're talking about a person, two people don't know each other. You walk across and say, hey, you look nice today. She's like, yeah, thanks, but I don't want to hear that from you. Oh, all right, my bad. Keep it moving. Versus somebody who is your boss who says, that sure look good today. And it's like, what do you do with that? It's your boss, right? I mean, that's not flirting anymore. It's a power dynamic. Do y'all not understand this? Right? And so there's a part of this entire culture that has to change and has to be addressed. And so we can't talk about the person who is in power as just being a big flirt, because that ain't what this is about. This ain't some woman in New York City saying Governor Cuomo was flirting with me.
Right.
These are people who are saying that I was sexually harassed on my job. And you have to take that serious.
One of the victims was in her 20s, and he was like, yeah, I can handle a woman in my 20s. I mean, and this woman, like she said point blank, I knew he wanted to have sex with me. And she's like, I'm trying to figure out how to get out of this and still have a job. I mean, that's the kind of pressure that she was under. Anyway, we're out of time. We can pick this back up tomorrow morning. Thanks for listening to the Power Hour today. We appreciate each and every one of you that check us out on Facebook, YouTube, on the air, on the app, and all the various ways that you choose to listen to us every day. Thank you to all of our folk that are commenting on YouTube and on Facebook. Appreciate you, Dr. Tyler, for everything you do. Thank you, Kwesa, for holding it down on the boards this morning. Listen, stay tuned for Wake Up with Word with Solomon Jones. And listen, folk, go out, change the damn world, because if you don't, nobody else will. Peace.